Joining us now to talk about the war is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for the time.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Brett.
First of all, give us your assessment of where things are. We understand that IDF forces are inside Gaza, inside and around Gaza City. Where do you see this at this hour?
I think the Israeli army is performing exceptionally well. It's fighting the terrorists, both above ground and below ground. We're doing everything in our power to reduce civilian casualties. We've managed safe zones and safe corridors so civilians can heed our call to leave, even though Hamas is trying to keep them in. And I think the war is proceeding well. We're going to continue until we eradicate Hamas. Nothing will stop that. We're absolutely committed to victory, which is not only our victory, but it's the victory of the entire civilized world against barbarism.
Do you still believe that the Hamas leadership, including Yahya Sinwar, is still in or underneath Gaza City?
Oh, it's there, but we'll get there.
To get those leaders, how long do you envision this being? Will it be an occupation of Gaza for months and months?
Well, first of all, we don't seek to govern Gaza. We don't seek to occupy it, but we seek to give it and us a better future in the entire Middle East. And that requires defeating Hamas. I've set goals. I didn't set a timetable because, you know, it can take more time. I wish it'll take little time. But we're proceeding step by step, reducing our casualties in the process, trying to reduce and minimize civilian casualties and maximize the casualties of the Hamas terrorists. And so far, I think it's proceeding well. But again, you know, this is a war aim. You fought ISIS, you fought Al-Qaeda. It took you a long time. I don't think it'll take us that long by any stretch of the imagination, but however long it takes, we'll do it because our future, the future of our neighbors, the future of the Palestinians, the future of the world, I think, is related to who wins. Does the axis of terror of Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, do they win? Or do the forces of progress and prosperity, Israel, the United States, the modern Arab states, do we win? It's important that we win. And, you know, history has shown that, you know, it doesn't necessarily favor the good guys over the bad guys. If the bad guys have more will, more resolve, more staying power, then they win. And they can cast the Middle East and the world into another period of dark ages. That's where they want. Well, we don't want it. So we have the perseverance, the will, and the resolve to win, however long it takes. But I'll assure you, we'll try to make it as short as we can.
Speaking of the United States, how firm has the push been by President Biden and his administration for these humanitarian pauses, and what have you agreed to?
Well, one thing we haven't agreed to is a ceasefire. A ceasefire with Hamas means surrender to Hamas, surrender to terror, and the victory of Iran's axis of terror. So there won't be a ceasefire without the release of Israeli hostages. That's not going to happen. But we have agreed and have done already safe corridors. You know, 2 days ago, 50,000 people passed from Gaza City down to the south, to the safe zone, in a safe corridor. Today, I think another 70,000 have passed. That's very important because we want to get the civilians out of harm's way while Hamas is trying to stop them. 2 days ago, it actually fired upon this safe passage to prevent Palestinian civilians from leaving. That's the enemy we're dealing with. Not only do they murder, mutilate, rape, and murder women, burn children alive, take hostages of toddlers, babies, elderly, Holocaust survivors, the worst savagery perpetrated on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Not only do they do that, but they actually target their own civilians. That is, they want to keep their civilians as a human shield. So obviously it's a tough enemy, but I think we can overcome them.
Specifically, the administration talked about some kind of 4-hour pause numerous times. Is that true, that there's going to be some stoppage?
No, the fighting continues against the Hamas enemy, the Hamas terrorists, but in specific locations for a given period of a few hours here, a few hours there, we want to facilitate the safe passage of civilians away from the zone of fighting, and we're doing that. In fact, we did one today, we did one yesterday, and I assume we'll do one tomorrow, because our goal isn't to fight the Palestinian civilians, it's to fight the Hamas terrorists. And we make a distinction between the two. They don't.
What about what the president has been saying publicly and saying privately to you? Here's what he said today.
Mr. President, are you frustrated with Prime Minister Netanyahu that he has not listened more to some of the things you have asked him to do?
It's taken a little longer than I hoped.
What about that?
Well, it's taken a little longer than I had hoped. I hope we could do it very fast, but we have battle conditions on the ground, the safety of our own forces, the hostages we want to get out, and the humanitarian corridors we want to effect, which, as I said, Hamas is preventing by using its own fire at gunpoint, preventing Palestinian civilians from leaving. So it's taken a little while, but I think we share a common goal, and I very much appreciate the support that President Biden has shown, the administration has shown, and frankly, the American people have shown, and the Congress has shown on both sides of the aisle. That's very, very important. That support, the American support and President Biden's support, is deeply, deeply appreciated.
Speaking of Congress, we just had a congresswoman from Michigan censured by the House of Representatives, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, for using and posting from the river to the sea. This was her explanation of that.
Many people in this movement for human rights for Palestinians have always centered it around coexistence. You hear them calling for that and saying that, no matter your faith, your ethnicity, your background, you should be able to live without fear, without discrimination, without this kind of inequality that, Netanyahu's extremist party and his leadership has been pushing. And so for many of my colleagues, they know and deep in their hearts where my heart is.
So when you hear from the river to the sea, what do you think? One, and two, are you surprised by all the pushback, not just in the United States with these protests, but around the world?
From the river to the sea means there's no Israel. From the Jordan River to the Mediterranean, which is a tiny area, by the way, that encompasses Israel, there is no Israel. And so what this congresswoman is calling for is policide and genocide, the elimination of the Jewish state, the one and only Jewish state of the Jewish people. So that's absurd, and I salute the Congress for censoring her. But it's beyond that. I think the protests that you're seeing, I'm sure it includes some naive people, but there are a lot of people who know exactly what they're saying. And what they're saying is that therefore ISIS, I said Hamas is ISIS, but the German chancellor said, no, they're worse. They're the Nazis, the new Nazis. And President Biden said they're worse than ISIS. So they're lining up with ISIS, with Al-Qaeda, with these murderers, with these baby murderers, with these rapists, and with these mutilators, these head choppers. This is what they're aligning themselves with. And we have to protect not only our lives, but our future. Can our world survive if people go and with such moral confusion and, in fact, moral depravity, support these killers, these murderers? And I think it's very important that this was censured. And I'll tell you something, this is an indictment of, I suppose, of higher education in many places in the West, when people who are supposedly educated cannot distinguish right from wrong and good from evil. Hamas is evil. Hamas is evil, and we have to defeat evil, not protest and demonstrate on behalf of evil.
There are leaders in your region who are concerned that you are going to go into Gaza and stay and possibly displace either Palestinians there or in the West Bank. Here's some of them.
Any appearance or circumstances that would result in either mass displacement or short-term displacement of Palestinians in Gaza or the West Bank or their surroundings in any direction outside the borders of Gaza or the West Bank is a red line and means, among other things, a declaration of a state of war.
Pushing 1 million people from their home and concentrating them in areas without adequate infrastructure is forced displacement.
What do you say to those leaders and those concerns and what the future looks like as you go into Gaza for however long you're going to be there?
Well, we don't seek to displace anyone. I mean, what we're trying to do is get the Gazans in the northern part of the Gaza Strip, where the fighting is taking place, to move a few, well, actually a mile or two, 3 miles, 4 miles, down to the south of the Gaza Strip, where we've established a safe zone. We want to see field hospitals. We're encouraging and providing, enabling humanitarian help to go there. That's how we're fighting this war. But let me say this. I think it's clear what Gaza's future has to look like. At the end of this battle, Hamas will be gone. We'll destroy Hamas. We need to, for not only for our sake, but really for the sake of everyone, for the sake of civilization, for the sake of Palestinians and Israelis alike. What we have to see is Gaza demilitarized, de-radicalized, and rebuilt. And all of that can be achieved We don't seek to conquer Gaza, we don't seek to occupy Gaza, and we don't seek to govern Gaza. We'll have to find a government, a civilian government that will be there, but in the foreseeable future, we have to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So we have to have a credible force that, if necessary, will enter Gaza and kill the killers, because that's what will prevent the reemergence of a Hamas-like entity.
Yeah.
But what I expect to see is a rebuilt Gaza for the Gazans.
Mr. Prime Minister, last thing. It was 50 days ago that I came back from Saudi Arabia after interviewing the Crown Prince there. I then interviewed you on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. Here's just a clip of that. So you think, if you were to characterize it, are you close?
Every day we get closer. It seems it's, for the first time, a real one, serious. We're going to see how it goes.
I know you heard those words from the Saudi Crown Prince. What was your response?
Well, I was delighted to hear what he had to say, and to borrow a phrase, I think we're getting closer to peace every day that passes.
It's hard to believe, Mr. Prime Minister, that was just 50 days ago, how much the world has changed. What do you say to people who look at that and say that is completely abandoned and is never going to happen again?
I think they're wrong. I think there's a test now for the forces of civilization and progress against the forces of medievalism who want to take us back to the Dark Ages. We're committed and resolved, absolutely sure of our capacity to achieve this victory, which is not only our victory, but it's your victory too, Brett. It's America's victory. It's the moderate Arab states' victory. It's the victory of humanity. I think once we achieve that promise of peace that we first branched out in the Abraham Accords, and we were about to expand further with peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia, I think it'll be a reality. I think conditions will be ripe. In fact, after a victory, I think they'll be even riper.
We appreciate your time during this war.
Thank you, Brett.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.